Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 27th meeting of the Subcommittee on Ways and Means. Will everyone please rise and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The members of the committee that are here are Councillor Giannino, Vice President Morabito, Councillor Patch, and myself as the chair. Other members that are here are Councillor Keefe, that are not members that are here, Councillor Keefe, Councillor McKenna, and Councillor Hass, who is a member by virtue of the fact that he is the council president. And Councillor Giannino, too. Thank you. And these are two items that they're motions by Councillor Rotondo that we're going to discuss tonight. Is Councillor Rotondo here? Oh. Well, we'll go ahead with the meeting anyway. First, the first item on the agenda is the implementation of a tiered water meter system. And I'm going to open that up for discussion. Councillor Patch.
Just point of information, if the maker of the motion is not here, I mean, I would like to know what he's looking for here. I don't, do you know, Mr. Chairman?
Well, I know a tiered water meter system, and they have one in Malden, they have one in Melrose, and several other communities, is actually to reward the residents that use lesser amounts of water. The rate goes higher, of course, for the people that use more water, depending on what community you're in or how the system is set up. But I have my own thoughts on that. First of all, we do give a discount to senior citizens in the city, a 20% discount. And we also give a discount to all homeowners who use the outside meter, which eliminates the sewerage charges. So that's what I know about it. And I know in Melrose, if you use under 2,000 cubic yards, you pay a lesser rate. If you use more, you pay, I think, 25 or 30% more. And the only question I have about that is, if you're looking at a working family with 2 or 3 children, of course you're going to use more water because more people take showers, more people do different things. So that would put the burden on them. And they certainly don't get, in most cases, I would say 99% of the cases don't get any discount at all, except if they're watering their garden or something like that. So I'd like to open this up. Councillor Keefe, you?
Sure. I would love to hear from Councillor Rotondo when he gets here, if he gets here in time. And I'm sure the conversation can continue on. But, you know, there's no doubt that whether we look at a tiered water rate system or some new metrics of measuring the water usage and the actual water usage, we have to do something to try and alleviate the bills and the amount of money that people are paying for the use of water, and obviously the sewer rate is higher. But you know, much like Councillor Patch had mentioned, or Councillor Powers had mentioned, from what I gather is people that are not as frugal with their water are going to get charged a higher rate. So it would benefit lower users or maybe some elderly residents or people that are not high users of the water. It would benefit them. Someone with like teenage daughters in real big trouble, like myself. So
yeah, you'd be paying more, no question about
There's
it.
no doubt.
And the other thing is too that you know, we're under a court order mandate to do a lot of work on our water and sewer system, and of course, that is passed on through, bonding. And the people, again, the large families are going to wind up paying more money, not only toward their water and sewer bill, but the portion of their water and sewer bill that goes to that bonding and debt service. So, any other councilors want to speak on this? Councillor Morabito.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did some research on this, a little research, and when I was looking at Medford as a sample study, basically when they started in 2014, they showed slight increases. So they were based on, I believe, 800 cubic feet, for 2 months, or about 6,000 gallons. So the average amount of water consumed by residents would pay an additional, they paid an additional $1.20, they went from $1.20 to $2.40 per 2-month billing, which increased to $7.20 to $14 a year. So for instance, if someone paid residents who used about 1/3 more than the average amount of water, see an increase of $50 a year. So I'd like to see, I think there's a lot of questions I have that we need to bring all parties to the table, because even the mayor, because we need to look at the MWRA, because that increase is like about an average of 3%. If the city gains money from this, are we going to put it in a fund, and are we going to pay back whatever we owe the MWRA? So, and you got to look at businesses as well. Those businesses who are solely based on water, they're going to be paying a lot more. But what about if you have, you have a 2-family house and the water units are not, the tenant's not paying the rent, not paying the water? Basically, rent's going to go up. So I think there's all these different aspects that we have to look at, and I think we have to bring different parties to the table.
Rent, not only is the rent going to go up, the consumption is going to go up.
Correct,
too.
exactly.
No question about it. So I think this is something that, it's not something that we can make a determination on here tonight. It was put in the Ways and Means Committee, and hopefully tonight, Councillor Rotondo. Councillor, this is on your 2 motions?
If we're talking about the,
Tiered water.
certainly, this is something that is utilized in many communities surrounding us, to include Malden, in fact. And as I've stated in the past several years, that it most probatively works for senior citizens and, more importantly, people who don't consume as much as, say, apartment buildings or people with large families. And this creates equity within the system. The way that it's done in Malden is, if my recollection is correct, it's cubic yards that they charge, and I believe we do the same thing here. And more importantly, they do it based upon a tiered system in that, so if someone uses between 0 and, say, 500 cubic yards, they get charged X amount on the bill, both sewer and the water cost. Whereas here, it's like it's a straight cost. They're up and down. So people who conserve are just as much penalized as people who squander the resource. And I think this is something worthwhile to look into. If the numbers work, then obviously, I would suspect that we would adopt it. I can't see how the mayor would not want to adopt something like that if it was feasible for our city. Because not everything works in Revere that might work in other communities. So it's worth investigating. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rotondo. Well, I spoke with the mayor today regarding this, and he certainly is, once this is reported out of committee, he's certainly going to look into this. And every community is different. Now, in Melrose, it's 2,000 cubic yards, okay? The rate for 2,000 cubic yards or under 2,000 cubic yards is $17.96, water and sewerage combined. Over that, we go into the second tier, it's $23.26. So there's roughly a $5 increase, per cubic yard. So And that's a significant amount of money. If you have a large family and you're trying to just get by, it's an awful lot of money. So, again, I think it's something the mayor is going to have to look into. And if he agrees with it and the council agrees with whatever he comes up with, I think then, then it might work. But again, it's not something we can just decide here tonight.
Of course.
And prior, to, Councilor, to your...
Thank you. So as you're bringing up costs, so for example, in Revere, if we were to use a step 1, 0 to 800, and charge $375 for the water, $12.40 for the sewer, it would come out to be $10.5 per cubic feet as currently.
Where is this, sir?
This is in the city currently.
Pardon me?
And in Malden, for the same amount of water expenditure, it's $9.76. And it goes up, it increments up for greater
And
use.
you got the sewerage on that,
Yeah.
too, yeah.
That's combined.
Yeah.
That's both sewer and water.
Well,
Melrose, 0 to 100, 2,000, as you said, has a combined quarterly consumption value of 6.3 for the water and 11.62 for the
Which
sewage.
comes to $17.96.
Correct. We agree.
And then again, if you go into that second tier in Melrose, it's $23.26 in the second tier.
Right. And that would be for someone who would most likely, from our standard, if I'm not mistaken, the cubic feet to cubic yard is a variably different number. So you're using two different numbers here for consumption.
And then also, they also have a quarterly fee.
Correct, which we
of
wouldn't adopt.
approximately $26 per quarter, which is an add-on in Melrose. Whether you're there or not, you can be in Florida and not use any water, you're going to pay that quarterly fee.
Like Ed Markey did.
Yeah, exactly. So,
That's how they got him in the newspaper. He was paying the quarterly fee, but nothing else. But that said, when you look at the numbers, when you do cubic feet to cubic feet from Malden to Revere, which is, I think, the greater comparison.
everything's different, and we're under a court order too to upgrade our infrastructure.
This doesn't change the numbers at all. All it does
It
is
doesn't change the
change,
numbers, but
it changes how
they may not
seniors
have
get
the debts,
affected.
they may not have the debt service in Melrose and the expenditures of the upgrade that we have here.
Again, it doesn't change that number. That number is a total number. We know what that fixed number
Yeah.
is, whether it be $18 million or whether it be $22 million a year, that's a fixed number. What we're doing is changing the formula, interpreting how much that cost is for our seniors and for small families.
Exactly, and once again, seniors, and I'm all for seniors, I'm a senior myself,
Are you sure?
I'm positive. And I don't want to go any further with that. But, we get the 20% discount, as does every other senior in the city of Revere that applies for it. We get the fee, the reduction on the sewerage for the outside metering, as does every other resident in the city. So I think that this is something we should look at, and I'm sure the mayor can come up with some type of a formula that's agreeable to not only us, but to the residents of the city. Any other councilors want to speak on this? Any councilors? Councilor Morabito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel we should also have a public forum, since this is going to affect so many residents. And I'd like to bring, like I said, I'd like to bring the stakeholders and all parties who are going to be involved with this, Director of Finance, as well as the mayor, and take a look at our water and sewer budget as well.
I would hope that the Director of Finance would be in attendance with the mayor when these
absolutely.
recommendations are made.
And I think we should just have this motion on the agenda, just have this as the focus of conversation, nothing else on the agenda.
Exactly, oh, yeah. But I want to ask for a vote tonight to recommend to the mayor that this take place, that he set up that committee and group to make a determination as to whether or not this will or will not happen. Councillor Rotondo, Councillor Giannino.
Mr. Chairman, before you conclude the portion of the hearing that you're conducting, My understanding is we're doing the new metered system. We're getting all these newer, modern, up-to-date, modern water readers in our place. And they're supposed to be counting for every drop of water that's being consumed by our constituents. Now, if that's true, and we're capturing every expenditure of water that goes out, the likelihood of the water rates going down would be very prominent. I'd like to see how that relates out to what we're talking about here. I think there's certainly a certain amount of business that can be conducted, and I think with the mass water resource, they give us X number of dollars, we have to meet that figure. But now that the water is going to be distributed fairly and evenly, then all homes and all businesses are going to be metered. I think that's going to be a reflection to the ratepayer, and I think that the ratepayer is going to be the benefactor of a reduced rate. I honestly believe that, if in fact this system is what it's supposed to do, and I have full confidence that it will. So I think that's worthy of conversation too when we meet to discuss the tier process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that input, Councilor Ganasso. Councilor McKenna, do you have anything to say? Councilor Giannino? Councilor Haas? Well, I guess everyone's spoken. So what I'm going to do is recommend now that the motion, Councilor Rotondo's motion as written, be referred to the mayor's office to look into the feasibility of this happening. Call the roll on the committee, please.
Roll call on the motion. Councillor Giannino?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Patch? Yes. Yes. Councillor Rotondo? On your motion, Councillor Rotondo? On your motion, Councillor Rotondo?
Unfortunately, I was paying attention to Councilor Hass over here. We were talking about something different. So, of course I'm for it.
Okay. Yes. President Haas? Yes. Yes. And Chairman Powers?
Yes, and then
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
okay. Now the next order of business in committee is the discussion with regarding the McKinley School, where the city should be going with that.
That's where it belongs.
What ideas are out there, and again, I'd like to hear some discussion from the city council, and then we can take a vote after, and this can also go back to the mayor for discussion. Councilor Rotondo, I'm going to call you. This is your motion.
Motion presented by Councilor Rotondo that the mayor provide funding for a feasibility study to develop the McKinley School into a multi-generational recreation center.
Councilor Rotondo.
So, to you, Madam, a multi-generational, one of the members in the audience can't hear that well. So basically, we're looking to make the McKinley School into a multi-generational facility, or at least I am. I would like to just work with everybody on the council to do something with that facility. Maybe have a working group with the mayor, figure out where we're going to go with it, and possibly find the funding with that. We've got too many children right now that unfortunately have really no place to go. And the mayor's working very hard, I know, at the rec center by providing various programs. My thought is the more that we provide, the less likelihood that they're going to have problems in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rotondo. Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm all in favor of creating something at that site. I would suggest adding to it as well, and maybe asking the city to send out an RFP for the unit. It would be great to have 3 to 4 options for that site. Certainly, if it was worth the money to retrofit that building, it would be unbelievable to have a multi-use, multi-purpose building that was able to service recreation center, senior center, or of the likes. But to have a few options would be really nice. Maybe there's a mixed workspace, maybe there's some ability to create some rental income out of there from office suites or mixed-use offices, you name it. So I would suggest or ask the city and ask the mayor's office to put together an RFP so that we can get the word out there that we're open for business on that site for the right use, something that will benefit the city. I certainly don't want to see that property get sold unless it was an unbelievable opportunity, but I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. But, we don't come upon land very much. But it's an empty lot. It's been empty for 2 years. I know when we originally, I wasn't on the council, but when we originally approved to move the site or move the McKinley School and reopen a brand-new school, there was an opportunity where there was some offers that the school department would pay $2.5 million to refurbish the building. I get that hasn't exactly come to fruition, and the money may or may not have been bonded, but what has to happen is we can't just leave that property idle and do nothing with it. It's too valuable, and it's too valuable for what could be an asset to our city, and I'd like to see it put to good use. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Keefe. Are there any other Councilor Haas? Council President Haas, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry about that.
Apologize.
Yeah, I believe we bonded the authorization to borrow, and we have not executed that at this point in time. So I think a motion will be in order to close down that bond authorization.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, only because they're carrying that liability on the books,
Okay,
even though we have not executed it.
I agree. Well, we can do that separately. Any other councilors want to speak on this? Councilor Morabito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I commend Councillor Rotondo on this motion. For so many years, you've heard kids talk about they have nowhere to go. There's no rec center. Not only does this cover our city, bring our city having a rec center, it covers all generations. This center will be for all ages. Some of the questions I do have that I'd like to see in the feasibility study would be, are we going to partner with the company to run it? Because most of these multi-generation centers, they're basically a fitness center, they have gymnasiums, they have ping ball, so we're definitely going to have to partner up with someone, and there's definitely going to be a high cost to it. Also, the feasibility study will show all of this, so I'm for a feasibility study, absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor Morabito. No one else? Well, let me tell you what I know about it, okay? Back when the school department was looking to rehab that building, City Council bonded $2.5 million for that purpose. And that did not include the debt service, which would have brought it up to close to $4.5 million. Subsequently, the school department went over there with the inspectional services department, which is the building department, the health department. And I believe at that time, from what I've been told, there was a determination made that there was a lot of asbestos in that building, and that the cost to remove that asbestos might well have been in the $2 million area. Being an old building, 100 years old, obviously it was named after President McKinley. And then everything stopped on that, okay? Now, I think Councilor Keefe has a good idea, and I was thinking along the same lines myself. Have the mayor put out an RFP, okay? Now, there's a place down on Broadway, that new child care center down there, that was where the old welfare department is. I happened to run into those people one night, and I mentioned that to them, that you might have something like that in there. You might have, part of it could be used for city offices, because this city, as we all know, is growing at a tremendous rate. You might want to use it to attract a high-end restaurant in there, something that I think the city sorely needs.
Point of information.
State your point.
This
sir.
motion states a recreation center, multi-generational recreation center. I don't think
Well,
businesses is
no, I'm just,
for,
no, and I
unless
don't,
it's a,
to
for
be
leisure,
perfectly honest with you,
unless it's for leisure.
unless we get a grant from the government, state or federal, to put in that type of facility, I personally don't think the city right now has the resources to do that. And I'd love to see something like that myself. But I think where I'd like to see the motion go is to have the mayor put out an RFP. Find out just what would fit in there. Who's interested? Somebody's got to be interested out there. It's a great building, it's a great location, it's right in downtown. There's parking in back of the city hall. You know, something has to go in there, but something positive, something that works for the city and something that works for whoever puts in the proposal. So with that said, no other councilors. Councillor Rotondo.
Thank you. I hate to kind of be a contrarian in this issue with you. I'd rather see it go to a working group before we put it out for an RFP or do anything. And that costs us no money.
Excuse me, Council, when you say a working group, you're talking about a study group. So.
No, I'm talking about, having the mayor's people.
Well, that's why I'm sending it to the mayor.
If you would allow me to elaborate.
Certainly, go ahead.
And somebody from the school system, somebody from the council, and work together and see what would be best suited there, along the lines of what you're saying. And maybe it might be a multi-generational facility, it might be something else. But I think at the core of it, it has to be something for our children. I mean, right now, we are the second highest in the state for heroin overdoses. We are probably number one, if not close to it, for usage based upon zip code. And those are probably for the ages between 16 and 25. And perhaps those numbers might be off, but at the end of the day, no one can deny that we have an existing issue. And so we need to do more to channel our children's energies into something that's going to make them successful. And various programs in Europe, and particularly Germany and the Netherlands, and as well as France, where they have an intergenerational approach. I think it works. This isn't rocket science, and perhaps maybe, as you point out, someone might want to buy it, and then perhaps that would be part of the RFP, as Councillor Keefe has stated. So I prefer it to go to a working group, period.
Well, yeah, the mayor can set up that working group, and I would
Agreed.
request that he do that. And as far as selling the property, we may be in a position where we could lease the property for a number of years to an organization that would come in with some serious money and look to do something good in there.
And I believe also we're having, the Palmers or another restaurant that's going to be at the corner of Yeaman and Broadway. The parking down there is stunted as it is. Perhaps, that could be, God bless you, Jessica. Perhaps, we could add parking there to facilitate that, to help businesses in the area as well. So
I agree.
It's worthwhile looking at.
I agree 100%. But I think the important thing now is that we send this to the mayor and let him get working on it, setting up a group, and we can all participate in that. We're all elected officials, and we're all citizens of the city, and we all have a right to participate. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please, on this motion that it be referred to the mayor?
On the motion, Councillor Giannino? Yes. Councillor Morabito? Yes. Councillor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Rotondo?
Yes.
Yes. President Haas? Yes. And Chairman Powers?
Yes.
Yes, the motion has been approved.
Now, I believe Councillor Haas has a motion in there that he'd like to take up with regard to the finance director closing out that $2.5 million bond authorization.
That's right, John. There's no sense of keeping it outstanding.
I agree
It's a
100%.
liability on the balance sheet.
Yes, please.
So on the motion of Councillor Haas, that the mayor rescind the bond authorization for the McKinley School, Councillor Giannino? Yes. Councillor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Rotondo?
Yes.
Yes. Council President Haas? Yes. And Chairman Powers?
Yes.
Yes, that will be reported out.
Before we conclude the meeting this evening, I see Lois Pines. Did you have something you wanted to speak to the council about? No? Okay. Well, this will conclude the February 27th meeting of the Subcommittee on Ways and Means, and our next meeting will be the regular meeting, which will be starting at 6 p.m. This evening. Thank you very much.